Beyond the forbidden.
It's said by many Gnostics that the Archons cannot actually physically attack the Earth, but holographically or interdimensionally, they can enter, or through quantum tunneling, they can enter our brains. Talk about conspiracies, and these are the powerful families that are possessed by Archons. That's why I call them parasites, because the Archons want to constantly say everything's fucked up. Oh, well, why do you go on living? And yeah, here your wife can help out. You've tried and there's no point in living anymore, and or just like why spend so much time bringing up your child or doing your job at work? Oh, it doesn't matter. Everything's screwed up. It's a fucked up world. And before you know it, you're going to be drinking that whiskey or beers and taking your pills, and because you're convinced it's a fucked up world, and they are being taught through these movies about the world. Now, in olden times, medieval times, and even before, we told children fairy tales, stories that were really scary, that had real monsters in them. But now, not supposed to, really frighten the children with these things. But no, they were being taught that yes, there are real monsters in this world, and you're going to have to be strong, damn strong. And that's this whole thing with mindfulness that they're talking about now, that you let go of the labels. Okay, we have labeled reality. And this is what we teach our children in pre-K, kindergarten, grammar school, etc. We teach them labels. We teach them what is reality.
Become a member on Patreon to get full access to all exclusive content. A few of the perks is the full-length ad-free video version of the interviews, face-to-face interviews, bonus shows, and behind-the-scenes footage. You will also receive the video interview way in advance before the audio-only interview gets dropped on all platforms. Sign up and become a member today for only $3 a month. The link is in the description.
Thanks very much, Michael. I really appreciate being here. It's good to talk to you.
Tell you what, can't wait to look into some of your books, but man, that Alien Parasites book, I'm about 60 to 75% through it. And I tell you what, that is a very fascinating read. It's like I told you right before the show, it's definitely up my alley. this type of material. And I can't wait to get into some of your other books also. But what I guess I know a little bit about you through reading, you know, and I've listened to some of your older stuff also. I've gone through some of your YouTube videos, but you know, there's going to be people in the audience who is Laurence Galian. So I guess just give a little background about yourself and what led your interest into this field of research, man.
Oh, wow. That's not an easy question to answer.
I'm here all the time, Laurence. So take your time, and you know the floor is yours, man.
Thank you, sir. Well, my interest with extraterrestrials was actually sparked when I was about 12, 13 years old. In school, they sent around a little flyer where you could order paperback books. And there was one book. The title was Incident at Exeter. Exeter is a city in Massachusetts, and I ordered that book, and it was the story of multiple sightings in Exeter, Massachusetts. And wow, immediately that really fired my imagination. Couple that with a childhood love for monster movies, especially movies about aliens and so forth. And I was off to the races. I just read everything I could get my hands on about aliens, extraterrestrials. But I've always also been a very spiritual, religious person. I studied for the priesthood. I was brought up Roman Catholic and very devout Catholic when I was younger. I've explored the world of spirituality from A to Z. I spent 10 years writing one book just about Sufism. I traveled the world interviewing different Sufi masters and speaking with them. And yeah, you name it. I did a long stint studying paganism and witchcraft, which actually I've been getting back into lately, getting back into my pagan and Wiccan roots. And I'm really enjoying that. But I guess
why is that? Why is that, Laurence? How come you're getting back? I guess you like to explore everything or open minded to everything, and I just follow where my gut, where my heart, my intuition leads me. Is that kind of the path for you also?
Basically, yeah. Yeah, where whatever I feel is like pulling me is necessary. I always like seek for enlightenment, but I don't like that term. I don't consider myself like a teacher of how to become enlightened. I think we live in such a multi-dimensional universe, such a complicated and interesting universe, that for anyone to say, this is the truth, or you must listen to me, or you must read my book and then you'll know everything. It's just bullshit. Yeah, I do not have time for people like that. They really annoy me. and there was a fellow, I don't know if you've ever heard or read anything by him, named Robert Anton Wilson.
Yes.
He wrote the Illuminatus trilogy and many, many books. I had the good fortune of meeting him, actually, and attending one of his lectures, actually being caught in an elevator with him, and he told the best jokes. Fantastic. He wrote for Playboy magazine for a while, but this man was a genius when it came to the occult, to the metaphysical. And, but he absolutely refused to let anyone call him a guru. He refused to, like what I'm saying is to say, well, now I'm going to teach you, the truth, the only truth, and nothing but the truth. One of the most amusing things about the lecture I attended was that the first thing he said when he walked into the room is, I'm not going to talk about what it says in the brochure. I'm just going to talk about what I want to talk about today. And he did, and it was wild. It was a roller coaster ride. And I kind of think that's what real spirituality is about. You have to be brave. You have to have courage. You can't be afraid to go into the dark places. This is definitely not for the butterflies, buttercups, and rainbow people. I don't mean anything against the LGBTQ community with the rainbow thing, but you get my idea that the people who think that
I believe people can do whatever they want to with their bodies, whatever they want to do. I'm the freedom of expression, everything you want to do, but it comes to a point you need to realize that there's an agenda at play, much more than what you think is going on,
Oh, there's deep agendas taking place. I firmly believe that this, I don't even watch the news. For the longest time, I just don't watch the news because I think all of it is bullshit. It's just created. When I came across Gnosticism and Archons, which the Archons are the alien parasites.
I didn't give your full link to the title. Alien Parasites, 40 Gnostic Truths to Defeat the Archon Invasion.
Yeah, there you go.
One hell of a title there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Well, I always had the gut feeling that somewhere deep inside the earth, in one sense or another, perhaps dimensionally or actually physically, aliens were controlling or are controlling what is happening politically, as far as health goes. We'll say no more about that right now. But anything that goes on with the news and probably earthquakes, tsunamis, they've got their tentacles in everything. And that's what the book Alien Parasites is all about. Is
I got a bunch of quotes. I say a bunch, probably at least 10 to 12, probably 10. And I know I got this is from your, I think it's chapter 1. What does the term alien parasites mean? Alien parasite quote, alien parasites are what the Gnostics call archons. They cause delusions in people's thinking because they convince their victims to believe things that are not true. A delusional person has false or unrealistic beliefs or opinions. A delusional person is someone who has a belief that is held with an extremely strong conviction despite superior evidence to the contrary. Now, this trait may be a brave attribute, but the delusional person refuses to listen and consider the opposite opinion. A mature and wise individual always is willing to listen to an opposing opinion and actually is eager to hear the opposing point of view in order to make sure his or her theories and beliefs can withstand all opposing ideas and to revise his or her ideas if necessary. Gnostics call these archons parasites because they, in essence, live inside the minds of human beings. They steal psychic and life energy from human beings as they slowly devour their host. They're aliens because they're not indigenous to this planet. End quote. Man, you're very good with your words. I love the book. Very
Thank you,
good.
sir.
And with that quote that I just read, and some of these quotes I'll read throughout the interview, and you can give your ideas and things you may like to expand on it, because I know the book is 10 years old, 8. How old is it? 8?
I thought it was about 5.
Maybe 5. It might have been 5. I looked at the date. I forgot. I look at so many books.
I'm going to do a video version. Oh yeah. No, I have a copyright 2019 here.
I don't know where I saw. Maybe I saw something else. But anyways, well, with that quote I just read, my wife, who is in the mental health field, they call that borderline personality basically what I just read. Like a delusional person is someone who has a belief that is held with an extremely strong conviction despite superior evidence to the contrary. And how you said, but the delusional person refuses to listen and consider the opposite opinion. What else did you say within that quote? Basically everything I just read from your book. And that, what does the term alien parasites mean? What they call in the mental health field is borderline personality, and there's a lot of that going on now. And I got more questions that I'll ask you later on, but my wife says that each year the numbers for people that have psychological issues and that are getting admitted, to these
psychiatric wards.
Yes. They're going up each and every year. It makes you wonder why. Or is there an invasion? Is there an invasion like you got on your book, 40 Gnostic Truths to Defeat the Archon Invasion?
It appears that there has been and continues to be an invasion. And like any good army invading force, they attack from multiple directions, and we can also say dimensions in the case of the archons. Now, for us to be talking about alien parasites, a psychiatrist could very easily say, well, just talking about me, that, I need to be on some medication. But the point that I try to drive home in that quote that you just read is that I'm willing to listen to all the sides of the story. I don't have my mind closed. And that's what I was talking a little bit about when we started the program, is that I don't, even with Gnosticism, as close as an analog as it is to what we are dealing with right now, I still will not say this is the end all and be all uh, of the condition of our world, our human existence, but it can help us.
You wouldn't be a Gnostic if you were to say this is the end all be all.
Yes, well put. Right, right. I mean, the Gnostics, uh, in in so many ways, I think it's fascinating that people tend to think, oh, they were writing 2,000 years ago, these insane gospels, really weird gospels, the Gospel of Judas, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and all sorts of things. But these people, in my opinion, were much more advanced in many ways than us. And yeah, to think that, well, what do we have now in today's Bible? We have in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, four gospels that pretty much agree with one another. And the church has managed, well, they had managed to get rid of all the other gospels and writings and
the apocrypha texts.
Yeah, the apocryphal text. Yes.
Why did they get rid of those for, in your opinion?
Because they were showing the multifaceted aspect of who Jesus was, what is going on in this universe, what is happening. I mean, I think I'll just be bold and say it, that the one way to put it is the devil dwells in the Vatican, and it's.
I think majority of people that listen to this show would agree with that.
Yeah, I would think so. So that's why I said it. But yeah, I mean, at first, I was at a pagan festival, wearing nothing but a loincloth when I came to a bookseller, and I saw on the big table he had of all these books, a book that said the Nag Hammadi Scriptures, the revised and updated translation of sacred Gnostic texts. And I was like, what are they? So I opened the book and I started reading, and immediately my spidey senses, my spiritual senses, like, went off, and I knew this is profound shit. This stuff, this is something very important. And
about what year was this? I like to go in chronological order somewhat, if I'm hearing stories like about you, like about what year was this?
Okay, I would say roughly 1990.
Okay.
90s. Early 90s, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't written my first book yet. My first book came out in 95 about. So anyway, I said to the guy, look, I'm almost naked and I don't have any money. Would you please just put this book aside? I'm going to run to my tent and get the money. And he says, relax, and the book will be here when you get back. And yeah, I immediately went to my tent, got some bucks out, and bought the book. I started reading it. And to be honest, I thought I was like reading the Bible on LSD. It really felt like I was saying to myself, what the fuck is this? What are they saying? I mean, you open up to any page.
Do you have the book right there in front of you?
Yeah, I do.
Show us the cover. Yep, that's the one I think I have. I don't have the physical copy. I have the Kindle version, but I want to get the physical copy though.
It's great to have it in your hands. Yeah, like here's just a series of vowels. I just opened it at random to give you a taste of like what I experienced. I call upon you, who makes the kingdom of power, whose word is an offspring of light, whose words are immortal, eternal, immutable, whose will produces life for forms everywhere, whose nature gives form to substance, to whom souls, powers, and angels are moved. And then it has o, a, and just all these vowels, and then zo, za, zo. And I'm like, wow, what am I reading? How do I even find my way into this? Is there a door to like, this does not read like your typical novel or your typical, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John gospel.
How old are the Nag Hammadi scriptures supposed to be?
Well, there's some debate, but basically they were written before, during, and after the life of Jesus, basically. So we're going like from 200 BC, before the Common Era, to maybe 200, 300 of the Common Era. So over a period of about 500 years, there's some scriptures that were written in Egypt. They were written in all different places, and also languages. But there is one gospel, the Gospel of Thomas. And this is really, I think, one of the most sacred books I have ever read. This is in the Nag Hammadi scriptures. And some people believe, a lot of people believe that this was the original gospel, if you will, because it's just a collection of sayings of Jesus, who I call the Christ or the Christos, because I believe there were two beings, actually, Jesus and the Christos.
Do you believe
That's
Jesus really existed? Because I just interviewed Joe Atwill.
uh,
You know Joe Atwill. He
no, I
wrote
don't.
he wrote the Caesar's Messiah.
Uh,
If I'm quoting him correctly, I think he believes that Jesus was basically the byproduct of, was created by Caesar, by Rome,
yeah, yeah,
by the Flavians, which were three Caesars who were also represented as the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. You know,
yeah. I've listened to a lot of that, those theories, and uh, yeah, I do. I personally think that there was a Jesus, but that there was also a very exalted being that was known as the Christos to the Gnostics, who actually merged with Jesus, and we don't even necessarily have to say that that there was a physical Jesus. Interestingly enough, uh, the New Testament is all out of order. It's completely just a mess. In other
I think the
words, you were
confusion. I'm
talking,
sorry to interrupt you, Laurence. I think the confusion is a lot of people, a lot of the researchers, I would say.
yeah,
I'm not saying Joe. I don't know. I didn't go deep down the rabbit hole because I just let him speak, and he pretty much spoke the entire interview. I let him. He was on a ramble. So, um, but I'm not saying him, but other researchers, they only just look at the Bible. But with my conspiratorial mind, like my show and me, I dive into everything, the paranormal, and UFOs and ETs. Of course, that's my favorite. But conspiracies, ancient mysteries, you got to look at the whole picture. But my conspiratorial mind is like, how do we know that the Bible wasn't edited and changed and altered? Not saying it's not true, but
right.
that's the Disneyland version. The Bible is the Disneyland version, and then you got to
Abs-
read these other texts to get to the ancient mystery school religion parts of it.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to ask a question to one of these type of scholars that you're talking about, and my question was, well, have you been factoring in the Nag Hammadi scriptures? And he said, no, no, not yet. Uh, I'm like, they've been around since 1947. Uh, there's been scraps and even larger portions of them uh, dating from the early 1900s. How can you possibly ignore them? Like you're saying, you have to factor in everything. So yeah, I am not going to say, oh, ex cathedra, yes, Jesus existed. There are many ways of looking at it, and I don't think it's necessary, actually, um, because the Gnostics were trying to make a point. Gnosis is direct spiritual knowledge, or direct knowledge of reality with a capital R. And so you can't fit that into a box, a nice little box with a nice little bow and all tied up and everything pretty. And there's a lot of people who write these books, who say, yeah, it was invented by Rome, and so forth and so on. And they do have some good points. For instance, Paul, all the letters of Paul that the Catholic Church is so fond of, actually, he was the first one to start writing. Now, he started writing about 15 to 20 years, supposedly after the death of Jesus, okay? So maybe about the year 60, he began to write. Now, Paul was a man that just was riding on his horse one day and saw this bright light, was knocked off his horse, and was temporarily blinded and thought he heard the words, he thought he heard Jesus talking to him. He never met Jesus. In all his letters, he only tells like maybe 2 or 3 stories from the life of Jesus. He doesn't talk about any of the parables that Jesus taught. Basically, Paul was anti-Jesus. His whole thing was Christ, and he was like that Christ died for your sins, and that was the big thing with him. But no, he wasn't interested in anything that Jesus actually said or did, at least as we read in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then around the year 70, Mark, not the Apostle Mark, the names are just given. These 4 Gospels are completely anonymous. We don't know the names of the people who wrote them. They're lost in the sands of time. But Mark wrote something, a person wrote something, and that later became known as the Gospel of Mark. And it's very interesting. If you go to any Christian Bible store, Christian store, and look at just about any Bible, any edition, old, new, whatever, and you go to the end of Mark's Gospel, it will say sometimes just a tiny little line in very fine print, or else it will have a very lengthy explanation, that when it gets to the point of Jesus being laid in the tomb, and then the women going to the tomb, well, what happens in Mark's Gospel is that the women go to the tomb, they find it empty, and they become frightened, and they run away. And that's the end. And then the Catholic Church, and there is no quibbling about this, because I'm saying you go to any Lutheran Bible, any Presbyterian, Anglican, you name it, it will clearly say that this ending about Jesus's resurrection was tacked on to the end of Mark's gospel. Mark's gospel does not have a word about resurrection. Now, isn't that strange that here, 30 years supposedly after Jesus died on the cross, and there's this whole Christian community, and there most definitely was a Christian community, all dispersed throughout Rome and Asia and Central Asia, but not a word about resurrection. So that had to be fixed. So then came along Matthew, Luke, and then finally John. Right? And then there was a series starting around the year 300. The Roman emperor, basically, Rome was undergoing your listeners have probably heard some of this already now, but basically Rome was undergoing a rough time, and the emperor wanted to really unite the Roman Empire. And so, what could be better than to have a Roman religion that like everybody could get behind and believe in? So there was a series of church councils. The first was the Council of Nicaea, and there they battled whether Jesus was part God, part man, all God, or all man, or they had all these stupid debates. Did Jesus ever laugh? Did Jesus? I'm sure this is when they threw out all the women. Do you know that it appears that you don't read it in the you don't in the Gospels, in the Bible, but it seems like the apostles and Jesus, they just walked all around the place, la-di-da-di-da-di-da. And, Jesus gave these talks, and everybody loved them, and he did these miracles and blah, 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 blah. But where did they sleep? Where did they get their food? And it's becoming more and more evident that it was a group of wealthy women. We read about Mary and Martha in the Gospels. They were really downplayed by the church councils. There was a large group of wealthy women that apparently did support Jesus and the apostles and the early movement. But going back to Paul, here is somebody, he actually had fights with James, the brother of Jesus, and with Peter, one of the most important apostles. And it's written there in the Acts of the Apostles and elsewhere about how Paul wanted this Christianity to be open to everybody and blah, blah, blah. And James and Peter and everyone in Jerusalem wanted to keep the tradition that apparently Jesus was keeping of following the Jewish teachings. But it's just, it strikes me as so bizarre that that we open up the New Testament with these stories about this guy who actually died and then like rose up like a zombie from the grave, and but then later on we have this guy Paul, who he says he's an apostle, and I mean, I think he was a narcissist. You can throw the book at him as far as psychiatric disorders. What an egotist! I mean, this man. I call what he create. Well, he created Christianity. I call it Paulianity. It's definitely not what Jesus taught. But I think we've talked enough about this Jesus. I think your listeners want to hear more about these archons and these alien extraterrestrial invaders.
Well, I got another quote from What Does the Term Alien Parasites Mean? And you quoted Jay Widener.
Go ahead.
But, quote, this is from What Does the Term Alien Parasites Mean? Chapter. Quote, Jay Widener, famous filmmaker, author, and scholar on Rinse Radio, stated the following about the Archons. Gnostics preached that there was an invasion that occurred about 3600 BC and about 1600 years before the Nag Hammadi texts were buried. They wrote that the invasion was like a virus, and in fact, they were hard-pressed to describe it. The beings that were invading were called Archons. These Archons had the ability to duplicate reality, to fool us. They were jealous of us because we have an essence of some kind, a soul that they don't possess, and the Nag Hammadi texts describe the Archons. One looks like a reptile, and the other looks like an unformed baby or a fetus. It is partially living and partially non-living and has gray skin and dark, unmoving eyes. The Archons are duplicating reality so that when we buy into it, when we come to believe that the duplicated false state reality is the real reality, then they become the victors. That was a powerful quote that you quoted from Jay Widener. And but if you want to, you want to elaborate on that before I go further?
Yes, I quoted Jay Widener because I thought he summed up very well a lot of Gnostic thought on the subject. It seems that, I had mentioned that they attack in a multifaceted way. And first, before we get to the Archons, we should talk about the dictator, the head general of the Archons, the Demiurge. Now, the Demiurge is the leader of the Archons. The Demiurge, according to Gnostic thought, believes that he is the one true God, the only God. And
You said you said that in the Demiurge chapter quote, the Demiurge has his henchmen called Archons, who insert strange thoughts into people's minds. The Demiurge wants total control of the Earth's planetary destiny, and is the greatest threat to humanity. End quote.
He is. He is. And as I was talking about, at the center of the earth, or deep down in the bowels of the Pentagon, I think the Demiurge, in some form or another, is present and is influencing and directly speaking through the men and women there. He has created sort of like mini me's, little replications of himself, the Archons. And now,
is it like would you say it's kind of like a computer virus that he created? The Archons is kind of like a computer virus in some way or fashion.
This is interesting. I find that fascinating that you brought that up, and also with the amazing spurt in the growth of AI. It's just taking off.
Kind of like, not to interrupt, but let's say I'm a computer hacker or whatever. I am the Demiurge. I create a virus, hence Archons, to do my bidding.
Yeah, yes. Well, it's said by many Gnostics that the Archons cannot actually physically attack the Earth, but holographically or interdimensionally, they can enter, or through quantum tunneling, they can enter our brains. And that's why I gave 40 Gnostic truths to defeat them, because they are an army. Make no mistake about it. And let me give you some examples so your listeners can get a grip on what exactly is happening. Now, let's just first talk about addiction. I'm living here. I don't know if your listeners know, I'm in Mexico. I'm a New Yorker, a native New Yorker, but for the last 14 years, I've been here in Mexico, and I like to watch NFL football. Almost all the commercials now are for gambling companies. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's happening in the States, but I cannot believe the amount of money that they must have to buy up all the commercial space. There are, a few car commercials. Few car commercials, but basically it's just a competition between online betting companies. And now I had a very good friend, my best friend from childhood. His name was Jeff, and he played the guitar really great. He could sing just like Cat Stevens, and he was a great fellow. But he fell into the world of gambling, and he would always want to go to Atlantic City with me. And I went with him a few times until I realized that he was a gambling addict. And I don't know if you've had direct experience dealing with an addict, but it's very sad. I mean, one day he came home. I was good friends with his wife. I actually introduced him to his wife. And it was payday, and his wife said, "You got paid today?" He says, "Yeah, yeah." And she says, can I see the check?" Because she knew what was going on. And he says, "Well, there was an accident." And she says, "What do you mean there was an accident? Are you okay, Jeff?" And he says, No. He says, "I was looking at the check and I was holding it out the window and the wind blew and it blew out of my hand and I lost the check." And I said, "Do you really expect us to believe that?" And from then on, he just got worse and worse and worse. Lost his marriage. He had a child. Lost custody of his kid. And so addictions, food addictions. I mean, look at our supermarkets. I mean, they are, they're the places of gluttony. You look at like the 7 deadly sins. Those are the areas where the archons are attacking. They're attacking through addiction. They're attacking through pornography. They're attacking through. Look at the insanity of what's happening with the political situation in the United States and around the world. Ukraine, Russia, Israel, etc., etc.
I was going to ask you about this. I just found the question that I have for you along with this, Laurence, is
Please, Mike.
what are some other ways that one can be psychically possessed by these archonic entities? Can they latch on someone when they are full of ego, greed, and evil? Can they latch on via a person who is astral traveling? Addictions like gambling, drugs. Can they latch on to someone who, people zombified in the streets, on meth and fentanyl? Can they latch on someone if they are unhealthy? Can they even latch on through the television, through an innocence of a young child when they're in that fragile state of development? What are some other ways? Which of those that I mentioned would you omit?
Speak the truth, brother. I mean, you just outlined a whole bunch of the ways. Like I said, they're multi-directional.
Let's tackle. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Elaborate on the one. Let's say, can they even latch on through the television through an innocence of a young child when they're in that fragile state? Elaborate a little more on that, because I feel like, I have a 13-and-a-half-month-old child now, and I worry about her future. I'm going to do the best I can, but I see how, and we, even adults, we're byproducts of propaganda through film and the hypnosis that we go through watching television. I love television too, but I know what's going on. I love football. I love watching movies, but I understand the game. But I feel like when you see kids, they're staring into that screen. It makes me wonder, can something come through to their subconscious and latch on,
Well,
the innocence of a young child,
the child's brain is actually, we don't really want to admit it, but the fact is that the adult brain is not fully developed until at least 18, 19, about 21, between 18 and 21 years of age. So back then, when you're dealing with just a tiny little baby, this baby is like a tabula rasa, a clean slate that anything can be written on. Now, I know that there's going to be Disney fans in your audience, because there have been many people in your audience who were put in front of the television by their mothers, by their babysitters, and to watch Ariel or whatever over and over and over 1,000 times. And now what truly amazes me is I talk to these couples who are getting married, and I ask them, where are you going for your honeymoon? And they say, Disney World or Disneyland. And I think, oh my God, adults wanting to go to Disney World to see Mickey Mouse or whoever they, the new hero is or whatever. There's this way that they are being taught through these movies about the world. Now, in olden times, medieval times, and even before, we told children fairy tales, stories that were really scary, that had real monsters in them. But now, not supposed to, really frighten the children with these things. But no, they were being taught that, yes, there are real monsters in this world. And you're going to have to be strong, damn strong, in order to withstand their attacks. You're going to have to be damn strong to resist having sex with your wife's best friend who's coming on to you, and she's so sexy and she's drunk, and you think no one's going to notice or whatever. You got to be damn strong to resist all the ways that the archons are going to try to worm their way into your head. I would say there's also the subliminal programming that works its way through the television. And I don't think we should be innocent and say, we would know if something was being taught to our children. But in fact, we are teaching them what reality is almost from day one. The great Terence McKenna, I don't know if you know about him, but he was a great wise man and master of entheogens, uh, plant allies, hallucinogenic plants.
Hmm.
He told a story once about a little boy. He just woke up and it's a beautiful, bright morning, and his window was open. It was a summer's day, and into his room flew a hummingbird, and he was just in awe of this hummingbird. I mean, he had never seen anything like it. And so he shouted, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy." And so his mother rushed in and said, "Well, what is it? What is it?" And the little boy says, "Mommy, what's that?" And she said, "Son, that's a hummingbird." And from that moment on, the child never saw a hummingbird again. What is the meaning of this story?
So the child was seeing something more magical, possibly, or
He was seeing a kind of a thought form, a it's uh, it's a way of encapsulating an experience into like
a
like
tulpa,
boxing it.
egregore, or something like that, or
Yeah, boxing it up into a word. So you have an experience, the hummingbird, but now you're just, every time you see that hummingbird, you don't actually see the reality, the gnosis. You're seeing, you're seeing just the word. Your brain is regurgitating this word hummingbird. So when you start to look around, just look around the room that you're in, wherever your listeners may be in it at the time, you can identify anything: book, telephone, agenda, table, tissues, tiles, clothes, blah, 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 blah. But how much are you actually in the moment experiencing, like firsthand, what is coming through your senses? And that's this whole thing with mindfulness that they're talking about now, that you let go of the labels. Okay, we have labeled reality. And this is what we teach our children in pre-K, kindergarten, grammar school, etc. We teach them labels. We teach them what is reality. And yeah, I remember in 10th grade, I went to Catholic parochial school, and the professor I had gave us an assignment. I forget what the topic was, but it was something, philosophical. Had to write a paper about it. Now, I submitted my paper, and when I got it back, there was a D on it. I was D, and I'm like, I've already read the Bible cover to cover by that time, and I was like, so I went up to him and I said, why did you give me a D? And he said, there were no citations in your paper. You didn't have any footnotes. He wanted this academic paper. Now, this is something you got to look out for in your show and with your guest, is this whole virus of academia, or the college professor type mind. They are just regurgitating what they have read in book after book after book. You know, one author has quoted another author who has quoted another author who has quoted another author. It's very rare to encounter a free-thinking professor, academic.
What you should have said, Laurence, is why can't I just cite myself? This is my Gnosis.
Oh, well, what I did, I was a very, very shy child, very, very shy, but I think it helped me. What I had done was I took the, the question that he wanted us to write about very seriously. So I lived, I grew up on Long Island, very close to the beach. And so I went to the beach, and I was very clever. I had a fishing permit, and so that enabled me to park my car overnight at the beach. Anyway, so I spent about 2 days just walking up and down the beach. And this was like in October, late October, maybe early November. So the place was deserted. I had to build a fire to keep myself warm at night. But I asked myself, Larry, what do you think about this? Like you just said, what is your Gnosis? What is, what is reality telling you about this? And that is what I wrote in my paper. And I felt that I had truly given the teacher a gift, because it was something that came sincerely from my soul, from my heart, from my mind, from hard work, not from, reading another book, but directly from me. But he couldn't see it. And, but that also began my questioning of Catholicism. And slowly, bit by bit, I began to question what was being taught to me, and what was really being shoved down my throat. That I was supposed to follow I was supposed to obey the regulations, whatever you want to call it, the catechism, and of academic scholarship. What happened to the direct experience of reality?
And you said, and I meant to read this a while ago when you were talking about it. This is in your how do alien parasites control their host chapter. You said, quote, the Archons use mind control techniques. This is known as the psychological warfare, but Archonic manipulation far surpasses anything the United States, Russia, Vatican City, Israel, or the United Kingdom has as of yet invented. The Archons are the ultimate brainwashers. The Archons keep people distracted with pornography and drugs, with sports and alcohol, with material possessions, exotic vacations, artificial reality, addictions to various pleasures, along with dreams of the artificial technological paradise of radical life extension, transhumanism, nootropics, and brain-computer interfaces. The Archons do this so that humanity does not have the time or opportunity to observe what is really happening in the world. Humanity is under siege. The Archons want us to be as uneducated and uninformed as possible, end quote. Very powerful and well said, Laurence.
Well, I think that's true, but Yaldabaoth, that's the name of the Demiurge, he plays a game with people. On the one hand, of course, he wants us to be uninformed. So that's where TV comes in, to make us as stupid as possible, to dumb down education. I worked actually for one university for 23 years, and I got to see some of the papers that the students handed in, and they were at the level of what I was writing in 8th grade. And this is now what's being taught in universities. But what Yaldabaoth does, the Demiurge and his Archons, is he tells us, no, you're the smart ones. You're the ones that really know. I'm teaching you the real secrets. So I warn people. I had mentioned that if you want to go down this path, you must be a brave, courageous warrior, because it's very easy when you start to go down the rabbit hole of getting lost in that rabbit hole, in that labyrinth. And we all know, I'm sure you know, I know, people who have gotten into the occult, metaphysics, paranormal, etc., who have gotten lost in it. They've completely taken it so far, and it's so you need to have certain tools, certain how would I say, weapons to defend yourself, shields, swords. In the book, I give detailed explanations of how you can shield, your child, yourself, and your spouse from these archontic attacks. So that's one of the 40 techniques that I give. And yes, you must use these methods of protection, or else you do run into this danger, because the Demiurge is telling you, yes, you're the smart one. You know what's really happening, and so on and so forth. And that's why you need to be very careful. And I always recommend shielding and grounding. Grounding is to have your energies in touch with the earth energies. And also, you can find this easily on YouTube, the frequency of the earth. The earth actually emits a tone, like a musical note. It's a frequency, and it's very helpful if you have this on very, very softly in your child's room at night, and this will ground him to the original earth energies. Because look now, we're talking about the ways that we can be invaded. Imagine how many electromagnetic waves are passing through your body at this very moment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are microwaves that are zipping through your body and your brain. There are all sorts. I mean, every radio station that's still broadcasting through the airwaves is passing through. High frequency, secret government frequencies are passing through your body. And yet, what do we sleep on? We sleep on these beds with these metal mattresses, like we're sleeping on these big antennas. So I recommend that you sleep on futons, and as much as possible in your bedroom. I know, life is difficult to earn a living. It's not easy. That's one reason why I'm here in Mexico. I can live a semi-dignified existence here. But if you can, sleep in a room as free as possible from televisions, radios. Do not have your phones on. Actually, a lot of the what would you call them? The men in black, for want of a better word, they walk around with really, really old cell phones, not smartphones, but cell phones. Why? Because you can remove the battery from an old cell phone, and without a battery, it can't be sending a signal. But think about it, how your smartphone, I mean, instantly when you get a phone call, a satellite, a cell phone tower knows where you are. Why does your phone ring and nobody else's? It's fucking scary that the cell phone tower knows where you, Michael, are, you, the listener, are at this very moment. And if you have this physically on your body, these microwaves and such are passing through your body. And we know our whole brain, I'm trying to think of a word here, but we run on our whole nervous system runs on electricity.
Our nerves is basically like a circuit board.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Our nervous system, yeah.
I actually have a degree in wiring and assembly of circuit boards because I wanted to be able to repair my synthesizers and other musical equipment.
So I see that piano right behind you. You say you like music and that. So one thing, before I get into that, one agenda I believe that's at play here, Laurence, by this unseen shadow force or archons, is keeping humanity from its greatest potential. They don't want us to live, love, have children, live without fear, no imagination, no creativity, keeping us from our true history by rewriting our history. And they want to keep our individualism stunted and be a part of the collective by feeding into this manufactured rigged reality by keeping us in the open air prison. And then that was one of my notes that I had for you. And then you start talking about, I see that piano, you're talking about the circuit board, and you said that about something about music. Made me think, would one of the tools here keeping us from our greatest potential is the hertz, the frequency in music, because it got changed from 432 to 440. Mm-hmm. So why is that, in your opinion? And then you even go to the ancient churches that used to have these bells, and the town square used to have these bells, and they used to emit these frequencies. Maybe they had some type of healing mechanism. Maybe when the music used to be at 432 hertz, it used to have a healing action within the body, So why are they keeping these techniques and these technologies, these older technologies, I guess, or whatever you want to call it? Why are they keeping this from us? Because this is basically an open air prison that we're living in, that they manufactured within this reality.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, the planetary prison. Michael, I'm going to make you the first bishop of the Church of Gnosis. I mean, that was really brilliantly said. I would say the point about the music, the musical frequency changing, the frequency of the note A or La. A lot of other things have gone on as far as music goes. Perhaps you've heard of Gregorian chant.
Yep.
That the monks chant. Well, actually, the true Gregorian chant was lost. I think it was the same thing as the Nag Hammadi Gospels. I don't think I made it clear enough that what happened with the Nag Hammadi books is that around probably the year 300, when the Catholic Church was killing, then they had the support of the Roman Empire, was actually killing the Gnostics, the people. You could just say the people who were writing other gospels and other things that were not in line with what the church wanted to teach. There was this probably monk in Egypt who put all the sacred books of Gnosticism in this giant jar and buried it in a cave in Egypt near a town called Nag Hammadi. And so the Catholic Church didn't know about this ticking time bomb that was waiting to go off. But in the year 1947, which is a very, very interesting year in and of itself. Many things happened in 1947.
Roswell, Kenneth Arnold, Roswell, the National Security
Right?
Act. Yeah.
Aleister Crowley,
Yeah.
and yeah, so much went down. Well, some Arabs who were basically treasure hunting, looking for little things to sell in the caves of Egypt. One of them threw a rock into the cave and heard a clunk and discovered this jar. And he was like, well, this is useless. Just a bunch of books. And his older brother says, well, let's bring it home. It might be worth something to somebody. And next morning they woke up and they found their mother lighting the breakfast fire with some of the books in out of the jar. So God only knows how many she burned to start the day's fire. But bit by bit, they realized that they had something extremely valuable. But the point that I want to make is connected with psychology and conspiracy, because you bring up the whole thing about the 440 hertz and the Gregorian chant. Everyone is willing to admit that there have been conspiracies in the past. I mean, certain conspiracies they will admit to. But God forbid if you say to a psychologist or psychiatrist now, yes, I do believe in conspiracies. I have my doubts about the World Trade Center. I have my doubts about this and the lunar landing or whatever it may be. He's going to say you're delusional and put you on meds.
Or you could be a patient of my wife, to my wife. You could be a patient.
A free advertisement for Michael.
Yeah.
Anytime your wife wants to come in. We can do a whole episode with her also. But it's amazing how.
Would you mind getting this in center the camera just a little bit, if you don't mind?
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's no big deal. I get off sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes I get off tilted. And anyways, go ahead, Laurence.
I'm just feeling relaxed talking to you. It's a pleasure talking to you, Michael. I do want to say that.
You too, Laurence. I wish I would have came across your work several years ago.
It's never too late.
And I wish you were on much bigger programs. And I got a friend of mine who I can get you on. He's got a pretty big podcast. So
thank you.
Yes.
Well, I just think that 95% of the public will never understand the true danger of the archives because it's all packaged so well. I wanted to read something from my book to you. While conspiracies have been well documented as taking place throughout history in every epoch and location, immediately when you begin to speak about the conspiracies that are happening now, you are labeled a lunatic. This is because there exist very powerful, super wealthy families with strong connections to the Demiurge, who want to hide the fact that he is covertly taking control over the planet Earth. So that's another thing that we're dealing with.
What chapter was that, Laurence?
This is Paranoia and Delusion.
And one thing I was wanting to, and I'm glad you brought that up, Laurence, because so do you think that these Archon alien parasites that you talk about, they've used political figures, figureheads and the elites of the world today and even back then to help push certain agendas? And are these politicians and global elites just pawns in this archonic parasitic game?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what makes this this whole thing like we were talking about Jesus earlier. So how can I say that you don't want to get so involved that you're watching every video, listening to every podcast about did Jesus exist or didn't he exist, or if he existed, did he? What did he teach? What did he believe in, etc., etc. This is just another archontic attack. Obsession of any kind is dangerous. Right now I'm wearing black, but like a lot of people who are into the occult, and the occult, actually the word just means hidden, which is very helpful actually to understand what is the work that we do. We strive to understand what is hidden, the occult. But anyway, a lot of people who first start to get into the occult, they'll dress all in black, and it's get multiple piercings and tattoos of inverted pentagrams, the whole 9 yards. That's just a uniform. There's nothing more than that. And you're still in the clutches of the archons. If you can't be a Gnostic, a metaphysician, paranormal researcher, and walk around in, I don't know, violet or pink or white clothes, a shirt, then you're in the grip of the beast, of the Demiurge. There is no uniform for the truth. And but yeah, as far as the conspiracy goes, yes, they, of course, we know they go back so far. We're just beginning to uncover. I'm a great fan of Graham Hancock's work, Fingerprints of the Gods, and I forget the name of his new book. He's just wonderful, the work that he's doing about how far humanity goes back, and that it's very, very probable that there was another civilization that existed on this earth. I'm not just talking about Atlantis and Lemuria, but way, way, way before all of that. that possibly goes back millions of years, but that there existed civilizations on this earth. We are a very arrogant species. And right now, you were talking about your son, and I'm very
My daughter.
sorry, a daughter.
Daughter.
Daughter, I'm sorry.
Veda, like Vada instead of like the Vedic. We named her Veda, Vada.
Vada, Veda. Wow.
Veda James.
Beautiful. And why did you name her Veda?
Well, I've always liked the Hindu scriptures and all that, but my wife, so I was thinking something, different.
Right, sure.
I don't want to be, I don't want to be a normie. You know what I mean? I'm paranormal. I'm a paranormal person. I like to go outside what's labeled as normal. So, but
Right.
anyways, my wife, she's a fan of the My Girl movie with Macaulay Culkin.
Oh,
You remember Macaulay, where that's the movie where he died, and his little girlfriend, the girl that's his friend, was named Veda, Vada. So that's where she got the name. And when she said that, I remember the movie, but not like her. When she said the name, I was thinking, Hindu scriptures and all that, the Vedics, and so I was like, that's it, we're doing it, Veda. So
interesting. I went under the name Val Sage for a number of years when I was very young. And there's something about that V that is very metaphysical, very interesting.
maybe the V could be making some type of frequency or resonance within the body. I don't know. You never know.
Well, there is a Hindu meditation where you're humming. Basically, you're putting your hands like this.
Yeah.
And you hum, and it is said that the sound of humming bees will help you attain enlightenment. So that that buzzing, that vibrating sound, it's fascinating. And here in Mexico, the V as in victory and B as in boat are in many places pronounced the same. So it's just that vibrational sound. And I believe that one way that we can escape from the archons, and we're going to need an escape eventually, I believe, is through music, because music is a vibrational frequency that can go through certain dimensions. And are you familiar with that book? What is it called? 10 Dimensions? Or there's a group, 10 Dim, and it's something that I've been studying very deeply, because we use the word supernatural a lot, and I don't really like that word, supernatural. I mean,
it's just natural. It's just natural. We just haven't uncovered it yet.
yes, there's nothing that is hidden, that can't be found. And this great Sufi poet Rumi talked about an open secret, that reality is an open secret if you're ready and willing to face it and to see it. But yes, if we can look at this word like supernatural, there is, in the way I see it, is that there are beings with godlike powers, with super godlike powers. I mean, beyond anything we can possibly dream up as like godlike powers. But these beings exist on certain dimensions, and the way to access these dimensions, it's slowly being revealed to me, is through musical frequency, because musical frequency can pierce certain dimensions and help us to travel. So I've been doing some experiments along those lines, and maybe the next time we talk, I'll have more information on that for you.
I like to talk about that, and we can go a little bit. I see several more interviews. I just don't see just one more. I like to touch a little bit more on this, and we still have a few more minutes left, but I like to touch a little bit more on this, a little bit more on this book on the next interview. And we can talk, because I have a shitload of notes here, but, and I would like we can talk more about frequencies and dimensions and stuff. So to kind of go off kind of what you were saying a little while ago, do you have hope in the younger generations to carry the torch when it comes to skepticism and questioning everything regarding politics, religions, educational system, and manufactured events, or will mind control and propaganda win the war of the minds of generations to come?
Well, one of the weapons that I recommend that the young people, the children, develop is the ability to think for themselves, real intelligence, not book learning, not book memorization.
And don't stunt them with ADHD medications.
Yes. Right.
Let them use their creativity. Let them be hyper. Let them use their wonders, imagination.
Absolutely. Let them have their invisible friends and be children. I saw a photo today taken on Christmas morning of a street, and completely devoid of young boys and girls on their new bicycles and skateboards, just an empty street. Because where were they? They were, of course, playing with their new Nintendo and whatever games they were given. Now, I'm not against video games, but it's the kind of video games that they play. You have to choose, in my opinion, games that stimulate their ability to reason, to think, to get themselves out of fixes, out of problems. And we also have to tell them what are the dangerous places? We have to be open about our own foibles, defects. That's one thing I like about some comics, is that they are not afraid to tell their most private secrets on stage. And usually people really laugh at that because it's such a rare thing to hear someone telling the truth. We need to start telling young people about that. Well, for instance, that Vegas is not the coolest place on earth to go to, or whatever age or channel they may be watching, with commercials saying, "Oh, you must have this toy, you must have that toy," teaching them no, and being honest about your own experience as they're getting older. We can't be afraid to be honest about how we fucked up, the errors that we made. And so there, I think we will gain the respect of that younger generation, and then they'll also gain from our wisdom, because it's always the job of the elders to convey the wisdom of the tribe to the young warriors, be they male or female. Like, don't be pressured into buying a expensive gift for someone. That's something that we've just been through. So many people, unfortunately, are so wrapped up with, if you want to ask a woman to marry you, I need at least a carat. Or I had a woman say, I will only accept 2 carats, nothing less. And, I showed her the door. That was unbelievable. But this materialism and scientism, these are our new religions. We're worshiping at the altar of science now. We basically said God is dead. The churches are emptying out, except for the evangelicals, but otherwise, everybody is like, "Oh, a scientist said this, it's got to be true." But they don't have a clue.
Mm-mm.
I mean, what is black matter? What is black energy? They don't know. And hopefully they're going to find out. Yeah, I'm definitely a supporter and a rooter for the side of science. And I want to see them make these discoveries. But when they get so arrogant and they say things like, "Oh, these UFOs, this is absurd because even if you could travel at the speed of light, it would take you more than 1 billion years to get out of the Milky Way galaxy. Well,
That's the
I'm
nuts and bolt
sorry.
mentality that we have.
Yes, this is a scary thing, and this is again another place where the Archons have taken control. Is that they've made us well. It is said that Archons are part machine and part biological entities. So it would make sense that they would push a mechanical, physical, computer-like agenda, a scientific agenda. And but yeah, we're like, if the scientist says it, oh, it must be true. This must be the facts. And look at what just happened with there was going, we had this great hearing in July about UFOs in front of Congress, and they were all ready to sign this bill to have a presidential investigation, congressional investigation into UFOs, and all that was stripped from the bill. And now the president can just say, oh, this has to do with national security.
Mm-hmm.
And they can put it on hold now, on a back burner, legally for 25 more years. So Roswell, the truth about Roswell could very well now be put on a back burner for another 25 years. Look at JFK, the JFK assassination. That was supposed to be released, in the 90s? And they kept pushing it back and pushing it back. Talk about conspiracies.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the powerful families that are possessed by archons. That's why I call them parasites. You've seen those insects that attack the ants, and they burrow into the brain of the ant, and they can actually take control of the ant. It's absolutely unbelievable, the horrors of what parasites can do. So we need, for ourselves and for the young people, we need to build ourselves up in every aspect from A to Z. So we need to build up our focus. You need to be able to hold a thought in your mind, meditating on that thought for at least 5-10 minutes, just focusing on one thought. And it's in every aspect of our lives. We need to strengthen ourselves. We need to strengthen our appreciation of all the arts. It's amazing. I asked young people, because I was teaching music in the university, that a number of them, really didn't like classical music at all. So I would ask them, when did you first stop liking classical music? Or when did you first decide you don't like classical music? And some of the answers are very fascinating. But to expose a young child to a very wide range of music. So play jazz in the house, play rap, play pop, play folk, play African music, Brazilian music, everything, Broadway music. All these frequencies are teaching the child something, and they also are helping us if we're open enough to see or to hear something new. I had a girlfriend in college, and we made a pact that every time we went out to eat, we would try something that neither of us had eaten before. And it was a wonderful experience because we discovered so many new things. And I think that's so very important. The beauty is so important because the archons want to constantly say everything's fucked up. Oh, well, why do you go on living? And yeah, here your wife can help out. You've tried and tried, and there's no point in living anymore, and or just like why spend so much time bringing up your child or doing your job at work? Oh, it doesn't matter. Everything's screwed up. It's a fucked up world. And before you know it, you're going to be drinking that whiskey or beers and taking your pills, and because you're convinced it's a fucked up world, and you have the right to do this. And no, this is not the way to deal with it. And that's why I felt such a strong need to write this book. I don't think of myself as a writer, as an author. I think of myself more as a what would you call it? A newspaper man, a journalist. I want to get the information out there and into people's hands. That's the way I see myself. I don't see myself. I mean, you said some very nice things about my writing style and everything, but the point is, it's not repeating the same old shit over and over again. The same old books like about creative visualization or whatever over and over and over again. No, we need hard-hitting reality. We have to face, like what you were saying at the very top of the show, that there are forces that are out to manipulate us in every which way we can't even begin to imagine. And so we must be strong and toughen ourselves up. And when I say that, I don't mean like becoming cold. I mean becoming people who are not afraid to open up our hearts and love, people who are not afraid to open up a book that looks a little strange and unusual and actually give it a try and see what it might have to say to you. Like the saying goes, take what you need and leave the rest. And that's basically my philosophy when it comes to spirituality and all of this. I'm just going in the direction that I feel my heart, my soul is pulling me. I just keep breathing. I keep just quieting my mind and just trying to be in the moment and seeing what comes.
I think that was a perfect way to end the discussion for this time, Laurence. I can't wait and here in just a moment, we can talk off air just for a few minutes just to see when I can get you back on, because there's so many things we left out. We can go down so many other rabbit holes and just more Gnosis to bring to the table. But yeah, Laurence, it was a treat, honor, a privilege. Thank you very much, man.
It's my honor. Thank you very much. It was my pleasure. Thanks.